morning, everybody. My name is Fabian Levy, and I serve as Deputy Mayor for Communications for the City of New York. Thank you for joining us for our weekly in-person media availability. Keeping New Yorkers safe and making our city more affordable, that's our mission every single day and drives us every single day. That work takes all of us, every agency, every office, every deputy mayor, commissioner, and executive director, which is why the mayor has once again convened senior leadership here at City Hall to tell you more about these efforts. As always, we look forward to taking your questions and addressing the issues that are top of mind for New Yorkers. So joining us today, we have Mayor Eric Adams, First Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright, Chief of Staff Camille Joseph Warlick, Chief Advisor Ingrid Lewis-Martin, Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services Ann Williams Isom, Deputy Mayor for Housing, Economic Development, and Workforce Maria Torres Springer, Deputy Mayor for Operations Mayor Joshi, Deputy Mayor for Strategic Initiatives Anna Almanzar, Chief Counsel Lisa Zornberg, and Director of Intergovernmental Affairs Tiffany Raspberry. So I'm pleased to now turn it over to Mayor Adams.
Thanks a lot, Fabian. It's hard to believe summer is over. A lot of sad faces on Thursday. Kids get back to school. So we're looking forward to a great school year. And it just falls in line with the keeping these children safe around the schools. Really happy with the 71 sites that we're going to have for. You're late to class today. You know, remind me of me sneaking in the room. The 71 open streets, just good concept to allow the children to play outside and keep the streets safe around the school. And we really wanted to focus on the cannabis shop. Many of them were targeting our young people. You know, some of you covered some of the stories, and we witnessed how the colorful packaging really was zooming in on our young people. We're really proud, Sheriff Miranda and his team to close 1,000 illegal cannabis shops. And, you know, it was being able to burn 4 tons of the illegal product. It really shows that we started out when we got the authority from the state, the expanded authority. We're zeroing in on this problem. It's so important. And one of the two of the shops actually were shut before, and they reopened. It just goes to show that it's just a revolving door that we have to stay on top of. And that's why police, they were crucial to this operation, because it's part of routine patrol to look at those sites that were closed and if they were reopened illegally. We're going to continue to move forward, but we didn't stop on that day. On last Tuesday, we had inspected 100% of illegal cannabis shops known to us. But every day we're continually being out there, and we're going to make sure that it's going to reach the goal that we want. With $64 million worth of illegal products removed off our streets, it is so important. There's still more work to do. 800 pounds of illegal products with an estimated value of more than $1 million on Friday night we were able to seize. And so Sheriff Miranda and his team is really out there doing the job that we're looking forward for them to continue to do. We were proud last week, early childhood, and this is just a phenomenal feat that is really, I don't think folks really understand the magnitude of it. Anna Almanzar and her team, for the first time ever in New York City, we say that a lot, early childhood education seats were extended to 100% of families will apply to 3K on time. 100% of the families will apply to 3K on time, received seats, and that is exactly what we stated. And we went beyond that. Thousands of families who did not apply on time, we continue to find seats for them, and we found seats for many. And it's a moving target because people sign up every day, so you continue to make sure it's done correctly. And despite that, the applications tripled from 5 years ago, from 14,000 in 2019 to more than 45,000 during this school calendar year. Our administration, we met the demand, and with 9,600 additional children who did not apply on time, we're also given seats, and with a total of 52,600 seats. Just a real awesome task to have accomplished as we continue to move forward. When we were at 94%, people kept asking, when are you going to get to 100%, 100%? We said we're going to get there, and we knew we were going to get there. Hats off to you, DM, for making it happen. And it's because we put the money in, $100 million additional dollars, and we added over 1,500 seats when we identify areas where seats were not located, and the 450 seats for special education. We knew we can get it done, and when you add that to what DM, First Deputy Mayor Wright did, and pushing and fighting in Albany with Ingrid and Tiffany, of going up to Albany to decrease the cost of child care from $55 a week for those who make $55,000 or less down to less than $5 a week. This is a continuation of really supporting families in the manner that we believe is important. So, it's clear. When our city's safe, affordable, and livable for working class people and all New Yorkers. Fabian, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, Emerson.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
How are you?
Good
Good seeing you marching yesterday.
We were marching. So today I have my Gen Z here from the platform, the Reset Talk Show. He's going to pose the first question, and I'll pose the second question. Go ahead, Deandra.
Hello, good morning.
How are you?
I'm great, how are you?
Good, good.
Beautiful. My name is DeAndre Desir. I'm with the Reset Talk Show, as JR mentioned. And I'm a faculty member of the Juilliard Pre-College and a graduate student at Columbia University. And I mention that because I'm sort of in a dual position of course, being in the hot seat as a teacher and being in the hot seat as a student and seeing what's going on. Rachel Wolf, last week of the Wall Street Journal, published another statistical retelling of why the American dream is so out of reach for most people and how it's particularly targeted toward really young people because, of course, that coupled with the fact that a lot of corporations and jobs are taking away the fact that you need a bachelor's education to apply for the position, the fact that housing is so expensive, fear of AI taking over. What should I and what should New York be doing rhetorically to tell these high schoolers that, hey, you should be doing education, maybe not necessarily college, but there is something for you. I know we've been doing, hey, college isn't for everyone. We all understand that, and kids are very smart, and they are aware of that too. But what is for them? Vocational schools are also, even these days, out of reach. So when my students come to my office hours and they say, hey, I'm really struggling because, depression is also up, and I say, well, things worked out for me, but that's because things lined up and I got lucky. Should I just tell them flip a coin so you can flip another coin, so you can flip another coin, and then maybe it'll work out? What more can we be doing, as I mentioned, rhetorically for these kids?
And the second question.
Well, first of all, I clearly realize that you are a college professor. So that's good. But go ahead, JR.
So the second question is, Labor Day signals the end of the summer.
Yes.
Yesterday was the West Indian Day Carnival, festive time. We were all out there, great event. But of course, there was a shooting where 5 people were shot. Could you update us on that and on the families?
Yes. First, I want to answer the question about the future. I think cities should look towards New York and what we are doing, leaning into. We want this to be the AI capital of the country. The governor agrees, Chancellor Banks, and what we're doing. Instead of being fearful of the future, we should be prepared for the future. And we also realize that there are many jobs that are available that should not require a college degree. DCAS looked at some of those jobs, and we removed the college requirement from them. And we are getting ready to take some new bold steps that I think is going to be the first time in the country. We're going to finalize how we continue to expand employment opportunities. And we didn't sit back. When we saw Black unemployment and Hispanic unemployment were at levels that were too high, we witnessed a 30% decrease in both those areas. We knew that for the first time, Black unemployment was less than 8%. Since, I believe, 2019. And we know we have to go out and meet people where they are. The team We have been doing hiring halls where we're going into the community, and we're seeing good results from doing so. But we have to remove the barriers that are preventing people from, number one, employment, number two, enrolling into college, and number three, believing that because they made mistakes in their lives that they don't have opportunities in the future. And that is our focus. Our focus is to be on the ground and finding ways that we remove those historical barriers that have been in place that prevented people from being gainfully employed and receiving the support that they deserve. You should not have to be lucky to be successful in our city and cities across America, and too many people needed luck. We want to remove that luck from the dynamic. JR, the parade, really hats off to the crisis management team, local clergy leaders, the New York City Police Department, of just what they did over the weekend, starting with Juve. The team was out there. Juve was probably one of the safest Juves we've had 3 years in a row. We made some major shifts from the hours to partner with our on-the-ground team, and all the agencies come out. A lot of people don't realize what's taking place behind the scene. All of our agencies come out, and we have had a real proactive approach. I think they removed 24 guns off the street pre-Juve. So, in one of the interviews, the person said he was out, he had his gun because he was out, he was going to shoot someone that he had a fight, a dispute with. I think the number was 25, thanks. 25 guns off the street, pre-Juve. So we were proactive. This was a well-executed plan. And so some people would say, okay, well, 5 people were shot. Let's be clear. One nut shot 5 people. One. And we were just in that area. And so when you look at that one person who we're going to find that shot 5 people, you remove him from the equation, you got hundreds of thousands of people that were out this weekend and really heard the call of a peaceful Juve and a peaceful West Indian Day parade. So really hats off to the teams, and our hearts go out to the family members. I know one person died. We go out, our hearts goes out to the family members, because you come out to celebrate. You don't want to come out and have that violence that we've seen in the past. That parade has always attracted a small element of people that wanted to commit violence, but we showed that if we come together, we can prevent that. And hats off to all those who were involved.
Mayor, can I just add a couple of things on the future and jobs here in this city? Thank you for your question. And what I'd like to add is that whether you're a student or someone coming and hoping to work in New York, you don't have to roll the dice, because we are not, and we have not been, in terms of strengthening the type of economy that we have here. And it doesn't just start with college graduates. We've made record investments in our young people. So just to name a few, record investments in programs like Summer Youth Employment Program. We have a moonshot goal for apprenticeships of more than 30,000 by 2030, and we're close to halfway there, just a few years in. The mayor mentioned we've had 26 hiring halls to bring resources to the people of the city across the 5 boroughs, connecting close to 9,000 to jobs. And I think the proof is there. We have record high private employment. And if you look at study after study of where college graduates are going, where tech workers are relocating, at the top of the list is New York. And so our job across city government is to, as the mayor mentioned, take luck out of that equation. And that starts with making the type of generational investments across different institutions to give everyone a fair shot.
Mr. Mayor, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. 2 questions for you. Did you watch the confirmation hearing of Randy Master last week? And do you have any updates as far as, are you going to wait until the vote plays out, or are you going to pull the nomination? Do you have anyone else in mind if he's not approved? And just back to the parade, was there any lessons learned or anything you think the NYPD could have done better could have prevented that isolated shooting?
First with Randy, my job is clear. He and I spoke over the weekend, had a great conversation with him. Just a great New Yorker, and I'm probably one of the best attorneys we have in the country. And we're not a halfway team. We're all in. My job was to bring the best qualified candidate for the people of this city to represent us during some very challenging legal times that we're in, and we did that. And hats up to the editorial boards who all looked at his credentials and said, listen, this is the right guy for the right time. And so I did my job. Now the process must go to the city council to vote, and they would do their job. I say this over and over again. That's the system we are in, and I'm pleased with our democratic system. The system calls for the different branches of government to do their job, and I did my job, and I'm looking forward to him being confirmed. And when you come to the West Indian Day weekend and the entire team that put on the operation, you said, was there anything that we could do? How do you stop a nut from taking a gun, shooting into a crowd of 5 people? We were proactive. 25 guns removed off the street just in those small days. 25 guns. So no telling how many shootings we prevented. And so, these random acts of violence, we had the police coverage there. There were new things that they did. I don't know if many people that noticed, but there was an additional corridor of lanes that they implement now in our parades, so it's no longer that if we have to move rapidly, there's a space for police officers to do it. So they did their job. Those cops and the crisis management teams and the clergy leaders did an amazing job. Again, you remove that one shooter who shot 5 people, you have a parade that probably never witnessed that level of safety that we saw before.
And just a quick follow-up.
Yes.
On the Mastro hearing, do you see any lessons there for the council's desire to have a larger say over advice and consent over more positions? Do you feel like there's any, after watching the hearing, do you have any more trepidation about that proposal, I guess?
I think that I don't want to conflate the issue. I want the council to continue to see that this is a qualified person. And if anyone walks out of the room after looking at his credentials and say that he was not qualified, to be the corp counsel, I find that surprising. And so it's important for them to do their job. And we, long before any legislation was introduced, Ingrid was, communicating with the council members. This was our candidate. And I take my hat off to him. He knew it was going to be tough, but he said, listen, I believe that I've served the city well, and, I'm going to move forward.
Mr. Mayor, just following up again on
Yes, sir.
the West Indian Day Parade. I mean, is there, I know, you talked a lot about the preparedness this year. Is there any way to prevent that one shooter, because one shooter can, hurt 5 people and
Yes.
kill 1? And also, back on the Mastro situation, do you feel like council members treated him unfairly? There were many instances where council members would cut him off and not let him finish, his thought or his entire statement. Kind of seemed like their minds were mostly made up already. Any reaction?
Well, I don't know if many of you remember, I saw this coming with, on how we communicate with each other. And we do it all the time in the street on how we should communicate. I told you, I was not happy with how Melody, a long-term civil servant, how she was talked about. I was really not pleased when Tiffany went in to speak. We just should not talk to people in a discourteous fashion. You could ask tough questions, but people are watching us, and we should have a level of decorum. And I just think that not only for Randy, But for anyone that comes in to testify, we should show a level of decorum and professionalism on how we interact with each other. And I've noticed that on a couple of times, and I just don't feel that's how we should treat each other. On the side of our police cars, the CPR, that should be on the side of every building. Courtesy, professionalism, and respect, we should always display. But again, I did my job. It's time for the city council to do their job.
Mr. Mayor, this
you were so
morning,
good.
Dr. Quaid from Doctors Council SAO was on with Keziah Glow on what's going on, and she expressed major concerns about the city's Health and Hospitals Corporation directive that physicians cut their time with patients from 40 minutes to 20 minutes for primary care visits. Dr. Quaid specifically pointed out that because the city's hospital takes all comers, that would be people that are sanctuaried in, enrolled in, maybe never have seen a primary physician, or the uninsured people that aren't on the radar, that this really puts the doctors in the position of not being able to do the job they know they need to do. This, of course, happens while they're at the table right now, still haven't found a new contract.
Yeah, yes, I'm not quite sure why Health and Hospital made that recommendation. I'm not a physician, DM, and
Yeah, it's
okay.
so that they could get in more visits. So starting in the fall, all primary care visits for new patients will go from 40 minutes with the doctor to 20 minutes. And this will allow us to book more patients who are new to the system for their first visit. So we think that this is actually going to be a good thing, and it's going to allow us to see more people. We're going to be adding more physician assistants to take over things like prior authorization and care team management. So I know that the negotiations are difficult right now. We're looking at that. We're trying to come to a conclusion, but we think this is going to be a good way to serve New Yorkers.
You do understand the doctors are saying that they should have been consulted. They're the people with the license and are responsible. This has been a trend in healthcare of this responsibility, rather than getting more resources, say, from the federal government, who should be paying a fair share for this issue, because this humanitarian crisis was not made of the city's making. And yet, so what's happening as a consequence of being overloaded is you're cutting down that face time, and the doctors say it's going to add to the stress in their day.
Oh, I think we disagree a little bit, and we think that the length of the appointments hasn't been necessarily decreased. These visits have been 20 minutes for a long time. So now just making sure that we're able to get more in and working together in order to make sure that we're seeing more New Yorkers.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, on Mastro again. You just said you're looking forward to him being confirmed. It seems highly unlikely, to put it mildly, that he's going to be confirmed. Your team has spent months trying to kind of make the case to the council. They're not bending to it. If you still have faith that he could be confirmed, are you going to change anything in the strategy and how to communicate with the council, how to try to convince them that he is, the nominee that should be confirmed?
I did my job. Now it's time for them to do their job.
Okay.
Just to follow up to the shooting.
Yes.
Any word on a motive? Was this gang related? Were the people who were shot, were they intended targets? I know one victim, I believe, is 64 years old.
No, when I communicated with NYPD this morning, to try to get an update, the age ranges of, 60s, it just didn't appear as though it's not the normal profile of gang members. So we're not sure at this time. As soon as we get an update, I know that NYPD is going to give an update to find out exactly what happened. But we're going to find this person that's responsible for it.
Just to be clear, Mayor, you're talking about the age ranges of the victims. Not
The victims,
not
the victims, yes,
suspects.
the victims. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Mayor, how are you?
Good. What's happening?
Getting back into it. So following up on the West Indian Day Parade, just another thing.
I'm sorry, the what?
On the West Indian Day Parade.
Yes, mhm.
So is there, and Ethan asked before, is there anything they've been done to prevent these one-off, as you said, a nut job doing these things? And has there been any consideration of possibly canceling parades like this if it continues to have violence? There's something possibly happens every year. And then secondly, on a different note, probably for Ann Williams-Isom, is the Post reported today on these asylum seekers kind of clogging up the criminal justice system. It seems like a lot of low-level arrests, but they're in the court system. And is your administration doing anything to track these arrests when they're in the shelter system? What happens if somebody gets arrested? Are they allowed to go back into the shelter, or is it waiting for a conviction? What is the process of that?
Yeah, first the parade. We don't surrender to crime. You know, if someone does something at the Thanksgiving Day parade, do we stop the parade? Do we say all of a sudden, don't do the Thanksgiving Day parade anymore? The cities won't be held captured by the numerical minority that participate in criminal behavior. We seek them out. We hold them accountable. It's imperative that the other parts of the criminal justice system don't allow them to be recurrent violence in our city. And so, yes, the parade has had a history of violent encounters, but we can't say that about this weekend. Juve was one of the safest we've ever witnessed, and we would have had the same with this parade if we didn't have this nut job that shot 5 people. And so it goes to show you hundreds of thousands of people converge on that community. Many of them come from the Caribbean diaspora, and it is an economic boost from hotels to food to material that's purchased for the costumes. It is an economic boost to our economy, just as the Thanksgiving Day parade is and the other big, huge parades. And so the festivities is part of the city. The police department did the job of keeping New Yorkers safe, and we're going to continue. We're going to continue to do that.
On the second part, I was just going to say, as a proud ancestor of Trinidadians, I know they would be rolling over in their graves if we were ever going to stop that parade. I remember coming when my mom first came here. It was so important to her to take us from Queens and to pack us up and put us on the subways and to be able to go to see and to experience part of our culture. But can I speak about migrants? Okay, so so Camille might want to jump in, but I think in terms of the shelter, we don't say that you can't come back into shelter because you've gotten arrested. I certainly am not tracking the amount of arrests that happen. I'm sure that there's a lot of arrests that happen for a lot of different groups that come here, especially groups that might not be able to work. So I think what I'm spending my time focused on, again, the Camille or the police might have a different perspective, is how do we get people connected to their asylum applications. We've done over 67,000, I think, applications so far, and we're continuing to do that. We want to connect people to their community-based organizations so that we can get them connected to work, get them out of shelter. We've been really proud that over 150,000 people have made their way out of shelter so far, Craig. So that's what I've really been focusing on.
I think I would, just very quickly, I would add, I echo everything that Diaman also said, but there is a code of conduct in these locations, and if individuals are in violation of that, then they are dismissed from our care.
Yeah, good morning, everyone.
Juliet,
Mr. Mayor. Hi.
how are you?
All right, how are you? Again, following up on the parade, there were so many adjustments made to the Juve celebrations where there were now floodlights and there were barricades put up for an orderly process. Would something like that be considered for the safety of the parade itself? Would you consider shortening the parade or ticket the parade, not cancel it, but make some adjustments to the parade to hopefully weed out anybody, with a gun or a weapon? And second question, have you made any progress regarding phones in schools? Will that be announced before the school starts or during the school year? Where are you with that?
Yeah, I'll talk about the parade first. We always evaluate, because remember, when we came into office, Jubilee was all night. And, I said, there's no reason no one should be out all night, and people pushed back on us. We modified it, and the results are clear. That modification made it safer. And then when I don't know if you guys caught what we said, we took 25 guns off the street, pre-Juve. And a few, probably 1 or 2 during the parade. That is what you call proactive, using intelligence, using the right amount of police presence. And we had a call what was it, Saturday? Saturday, where there were some electors that says that we were being too heavy-handed.
And let me just add this. After every parade of that magnitude and scale, there's a decompression strategy. So NYPD, a number of people from the community, a number of people from our different agencies will sit down and have a discussion on what additional means, if any, are necessary. But as the mayor said, it's really difficult to single out an individual who has done something of that magnitude and scale. If it were gang-related, for sure, and we knew, we can say, okay, it's gang-related, so we can look at gangs more closely, but we really don't know. So we have to do an assessment, which the team will do, and they'll talk about what worked this year and what steps we can do better. And Mayor, may I remind you, all of the stuff that was implemented started from Borough Hall.
Right.
You actually started having all of those meetings as the borough president and had a discussion about what was necessary, and then you took it to the next level. So it's an unfortunate incident, but as Ann said, this parade is very important to a number of us. Almost a number of us on this stage are of West Indian descent or culture. My family is Bajan and Panamanian, Camille Trinidadian, Sheena Jamaican. I mean, the list goes on and on. And this parade this is the 57th parade. And even if you look at it historically, I don't believe that there's been 57 incidents. It's unfortunate. It's a high-profile parade. It's the biggest parade in the city. It drives in the most money economically for the city. So these things happen. But we have a great team, and we will do an assessment, and whatever we can do to address it, we will.
Given that you want people that are participating in Juve, would you consider something like that?
I'm sorry?
You want people, they have the locations during the Juve march.
Right.
Would you consider something like that?
And that's a great question. And what we found through the years, and when we look back and do an analysis of what works, what doesn't, in previous years, it was amazing how many shootings took place off the parade route. It wasn't on the parade route. And so when you look at the length of the parade, and when you look at the number of people and the police personnel, you have to, how do you manage your personnel? Because remember yesterday, not only did we have that large parade with thousands of officers assigned, we had 7,000 people walking through the streets with flares and smoke bombs that we had to respond to also. And that attracted many people. We've arrested 4 people. 3 of the people we arrested were not from New York.
Just hold on one second. Want to point out, Juliet, a couple things also. So this year on the parade route itself, while the mayor talked about proactive, they took off 10 guns off the parade route itself. That's more than last year. Remember, that's in context of over 18,000 we've taken off the streets since the start of this administration. If we hadn't done that, there'd likely be more shootings on our streets. We're passing stricter gun laws in this city than anywhere else in the country. If we didn't do that, there'd likely be more shootings. We're going after gun traffickers. If we didn't do that, there'd be more there'd be more shootings on our streets. So there's a lot of proactive stuff that the mayor didn't even mention here that the NYPD is doing here.
Just on the phone question?
Yes. Nothing has changed from, I think, last week was asked. We have to get it right. What I don't want to do is to implement and then change. And there's a lot of strong feelings around this, trust me, but making the right decisions and making sure we can get it right is what we're doing. We are looking at best practices in other schools who have banned, because there are schools who have banned already. And so we want to get it right. And I think that our motto is going to be able to help the entire country, because we're the largest school system. But we got to get it right. And I'm not there yet. When I feel we got it right, and I've done enough research, I got enough buy-in and engagement, then we will make the decision on moving forward. Because trust me, as soon as we do it, all those people who were saying we should do it are going to be jumping up and down and saying, what are you doing? Why you do it? Look, I have a master's in the public administration, but I have a PhD in New Yorkers. What's going on, Katie?
I want to ask you 2 questions.
Yes.
So today, Linda's son, who previously worked for Governor Hochul and Congresswoman Grace Meng, she was indicted by the Eastern District as an agent for the Chinese Communist Party. I know you traveled to China multiple times with Liddy Greco, a current staffer whose home was also raided by the same federal entity. She was just a volunteer in the Brooklyn Borough President's office. I'm curious, what kind of due diligence did you do on those trips to ensure? I know you visited all over the country. I know she had a lot of connections there. What kind of due diligence did you do, and do you do now as mayor, to vet both your staff, who maybe has connections to various foreign governments, whatever the connections may be, and even when you're traveling? And then my second question, I know you praised some of the editorial boards for their support of Randy Mastro. A few days ago, the New York Post editorial board they characterized what the city council's 11-hour hearing as an attempted lynching. I didn't know if you agreed with that characterization of what you call as part of the process.
Can I just say this? I love you, Katie.
I don't quite understand that. I've answered this question over and over again. I did my job, put up the most qualified candidate to be the corporation counsel as we deal with these challenging times and legal issues. It's now time for the city council to do their job and confirm Randy. I think it will be a win for our entire city. We're going to have one of the most qualified, well-diverse, and well-rounded legal minds to protect the city.
I didn't write that. I asked if you agreed, it was the New York Post editorial board that did.
Well, right now, I want the council to vote and confirm Randy. And I think that those who are outside observers and saw what happened, they're going to weigh in on what took place. My job is to put up the best candidate, and that's what I did. And we do our due diligence to look into the topics that you just mentioned.
Well, how, especially when you were traveling, I don't know what kind of vetting you do when you're Brooklyn Borough president, you're kind of going, I know she did the itinerary a lot of the times, and I know she's still apparently under investigation. I don't know what kind of.
It goes through conflict of interest.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you don't take a trip unless it goes through conflict of interest. And if they approve it, then we assume that it's fine. This is all new. We never knew about people being agents of the government. That was never brought to our attention. So when we go on a trip, anyone on this panel, it goes through legal, and it goes to conflict of interest. If they approve the trip, we think that it's legal. We're not lawyers,
Hey, how are you?
How are you? Okay, I have two questions. Number one, the school is going to be open day after tomorrow, and then
I'm sorry?
the school.
School?
Yes. So the COVID is
School is
spreading
Thursday, right?
all over.
Oh.
The COVID is spreading all over, and then.
Today?
So is there any guidelines?
Today's Tuesday. Oh, okay, no, I think you said tomorrow. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm.
So the COVID is spreading all over, and is there any guideline for students? Because there is no guideline for us now, and then the parents, they need to have some kind of guidelines. What the guidelines in order to protect their kids? Number one. Number two, there is a verdict yesterday came, which is jazz rules. All new New York taxis must be wheelchair accessible. What is the city position on this?
Okay, I didn't get
The
that.
second question?
Yeah.
Wheelchair accessibility.
Taxi, wheelchair accessibility. Got it. Camille, you want to go into the schools or Anna and the COVID? Aaron, either one of you?
I bet you were going to say the same thing, which is that there is no real new guidance because this is going to be our new normal, and that we want people to go out. The vaccines are available. You can go on Vaccine Finder or go to your local pharmacy and make an appointment. We think everybody definitely should make an appointment and get their updated vaccine. And if you're not feeling well, if you have sniffles, if you don't think, you should stay at home so that we're not spreading it. Because I think it's right. We're all back. I read an article today. We're back at work. We're back in restaurants, right? Everybody's having a good time. So we just have to make sure that we're taking those precautions. And it's the same thing for kids as they're going back to school.
What about the mask?
No mask. I think people, go ahead, Camille.
We follow the CDC's guidance, and the Department of Health will work in partnership with New York City Public Schools and make sure that the families, the teachers, everyone, all of our professionals have the right guidance.
The taxis. Mira, you going to do?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So the order that came out recently was in relation to a settlement that was reached over a decade ago at the end of the Bloomberg administration, where the Taxi and Limousine Commission agreed to ensure that half of the yellow medallion taxi fleet would be wheelchair accessible. A lot has changed since then. Number one of the biggest changes has been during the interim period, we've extended wheelchair accessible requirements to the entire for-hire industry. So that's over 80,000 to 100,000 vehicles. That's Uber and Lyft. And they're required now to pick up people that ask for a wheelchair accessible vehicle within a period of time. Usually that's less than 10 minutes. There's nowhere else in the country that you will get on-demand wheelchair accessible service at those levels, and that's a level that we're constantly working to improve. So it's been an absolute life-changing policy change for people that use wheelchairs to get to where they need to go, work, class, social commitments, and not have to be at the mercy all the time of Access-a-Ride. On the taxi side, we've worked very well to ensure that we meet the 50% accessibility requirement. But TLC is a regulator of a private industry, the medallion industry. There's been a lot of changes there, and the accessible vehicles are much more expensive than standard vehicles. So the TLC has set up reimbursement programs where sometimes up to $30,000 is given to the medallion owner to help them purchase the vehicle, and additional money is paid to everyone who drives an accessible vehicle, as well as extending the retirement dates of those accessible vehicles. Because it is a market, not a service that we provide directly, there has been less interest in bringing on new medallion taxi cabs that are accessible. And as a result, we don't have 50% of the accessible active taxis that are 50% of our fleet that's accessible. We do have thousands and thousands of accessible taxis, which is so much larger than what the state was in 2013, where it was just a handful. So we're going to work with the industry to ensure that every new hack-up is to an accessible vehicle. The only difference between today and yesterday is that previously, the medallion owners basically, it was every other hack-up would be accessible. And now to accelerate the conversion, it'll be every hack-up until we reach 50% of the active.
Dan?
Mr. Mayor, thank you for taking all these questions on the parades. I do think it's an important issue. When someone gets killed, shot to death, 2:30 in the afternoon. And you posed a question to us, what compels someone? And could it be, right or wrong, that someone thinks it is fine to go get an illegal gun, carry it illegally, there's a low likelihood they'll be caught, and if they are caught, the punishment will be so light and that they can actually use it. Do you think that that is the case? People do think that the punishment is simply not there, or the balance is in favor of using that gun? And then just secondly, I was at the security briefing with Chief Madry. A lot has changed since I went to the parade like 10 years ago when I lived in Crown Heights, and like the wanding, for instance, and you have the drones. But what else then can there be done? It sounds like you're saying you're doing everything you can. Is Strategic Response Group involved in these plannings as well? I guess the better question is.
I'm sorry.
NYPD Strategic Response Unit, I know they're typically for protests, but when you're seeing violence like this, are they brought in the parade planning?
I think the best person that can answer that is Chief Commissioner Caban and Chief of Department Jeff Madry on who they pull in. I know a parade of this magnitude and some of the history, everyone is in the room coming up with real good ideas and solutions. And those ideas and solutions got us to where we are now. We found that we were responding too slowly to get guns before they get on the route. That's why we got 25 guns off the street and 10 along the parade route. So our response has always been, what happened, as Ingrid indicated, what happened the year before, what can we do differently? And you see a different modification each year, different evolution. We're gonna do some different things this time around. On next year to make sure that we just continue to stay ahead of the bad guys. But I think you alluded to something that I think is important. There is an energy out there that the criminal justice system is not willing to hold people accountable when they are carrying, possession, and using guns. It's just become a revolving door. And I think we need to be very serious about dealing with those people who have repeated actions of violence in our city. They need to be held accountable.
I would also add, Dan, so NYPD just sent me these numbers. There were 74 shootings in August, which are obviously 74 too many, but 74 shootings is the lowest number in the history since NYPD has started tracking these numbers.
I'm sorry, what is that number?
Shootings in the city of New York.
In general?
Yes, in August. So, they are doing a lot of proactive work. Obviously, 74 still too many. We don't want a single person shot in the city, but their proactive efforts are working right now.
And remember, there was a high belief that this was going to be a challenge in July and August. You know what Fabian just said, DM Levy said, the 74 is the lowest in history for the city.
The safest August.
Safest August in gun violence in the history of the city. You know,
Recorded history.
Recorded history, right? Because I don't know what they were doing back in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Right. You know, so I think that what we really failed to do, one day we have to just say thank you, NYPD. Just one day, one story needs to be thank you, NYPD. These men and women, when those shots went off yesterday, they didn't run away from the shooting. They ran toward the shooting. There's something that is special about people who are willing to put their lives on the line to protect other people that they don't even know.
And sir, just to add to that, and I think someone alluded to it earlier today, it wasn't just NYPD. I mean, in real time, you had the God Squad, you had so many other nonprofit organizations, volunteers, even elected officials who were in real time identifying where the temperature may have been turned up at a particular block and they needed to deploy some additional resources to try to cool things down. They were all moving as quickly as they can in real time, communicating with each other to try to be responsive to what was happening. So I think really not just NYPD, but a shout out and a thank you to all of them as well.
Yep.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Mayor.
How are you?
Good. On the 3K front, when do you, two questions. First, on the 3K front, when do you imagine you'll be able to say 3K is universal, the way we talk about, 4K as being universal? And then secondly, in February, after it was reported that the Nightscope K5 robot was no longer being deployed in the Times Square subway station, you guys said that you were looking for a new place for it to be deployed. I'm just curious how that thinking is going and whether you foresee it having a useful place in New York City.
Yeah, Camille, you want to do the universality of,
I take the 3K.
Anna,
Thanks,
I'm sorry.
As the mayor mentioned in the opening this morning, we have made offers that are unprecedented through the entire history of 3K. We made more offers than ever before. This year, the number of applicants was triple from that of 2019. It went from 14,000 to 43,000 or so. Of that, today, we can say that we offer 100% of the families a seat. For those who applied on time. We also offer, and Mayor mentioned this, 9,600 families who didn't submit an application on time, a seat this year. We do have a number of them who are waiting. We're working on those families day in and day out to make sure that they find a seat, working with providers as well to make sure that they work off those waiting lists. And as families accept those seats from the waiting list, we can move those families who are waiting for a seat into those spaces. We also work with New York City Public Schools to make sure that as of today, we have made offers to 52,600 families throughout the entire system just for 3K. And we're talking about a system entirely for early childhood that's over 150,000 families. That's the size of a city, I would like to think the mayor will say, throughout the entire system. We do work day in and day out with our teams from ACS, HRA, DOHMH, New York City Public Schools, to make sure that all the changes that we can make to the system, adjustments, are made throughout the system. We know there's work yet to be done, and we are working together to make sure that happens, as well as our work with the City Council, in looking at every single corner that we can change and adjust and bring more funding, as we did for our special ed seats, the 25 million extra, and in addition to the 25 million that was there, 50 million total for this year, and looking at the system and seeing that we initially had a prediction of 300 seats for our early childhood education special ed, and we were able to start opening 450 of those, and looking at it throughout the entire year to make sure those kids with special need as well find a seats when they come in looking for it.
There's no particular goal as far as universality is concerned?
We are engaging as part of our 10-year plan with a group of advisors from the system that are not part of New York City Public Schools or the city itself, and looking at every possibility of what we can do to make sure that we offer seats to every family that needs one and that apply on time.
And, we came a long way. 14,000 2019, 14,000 2019. Hats off to former Mayor de Blasio for understanding, how early childhood education is crucial. But from 14,000 to 52,000, there's an evolution. And we are very much moving towards that evolution of accomplishing that task. And we're looking forward to doing that.
And on the K-5 nights?
Yeah, we have it in a new assignment. Once it goes through its pilot, we're going to respond to that, but it has a new assignment right now. You say teaching other robots? We have it on a new assignment. We have it on a new assignment, and I want that assignment to be able to play out. Right.
It's really Katie.
We have it on a new assignment, and once it goes through the pilot, we'll roll out exactly its new assignment.
Hi, Mayor. Sorry to be late to class. Child care about this week. I do have a more substantive school question, but a quick button on parade first. Is there, just for our knowledge, you talk about the resources being brought to bear, the prevention, the 25 guns for Juve, and then moving into Carnival. Is there any other parade or event where you have to bring these sort of resources to bear? And then, again, I did have a school question after that.
Yes, yes. So you'll be surprised. Some of the parades you think are without any additional resources. One of the most peaceful parades call for some of the greatest level of resources because of the external factors that are involved. But yes, many of these parades, you have to have a great deal of resources. Even if you look at the celebration we do on New Year's, we wand people. That's a huge amount of resources. This year we had to change the Israeli Day, Independence Day parade. That took an awesome amount of resources because of the external factors. So yes, we look at the events and then we make the determination of the resources we need. Now, what I'm pleased about when my first year, I made it clear that we were not properly deploying our resources. And many of you who have attended these parades, you will see along the block, every 3 feet, you'll see a police officer. That was just a waste of manpower. And we cut that down. If you did the West Indian Day Parade, you saw a different deployment of police officers. They were able to respond faster to incidents. There was an incident when we were crossing, I think, Nostrand Avenue, that there was a fight. 3 or 4 people were fighting, and the police officers were able to get there quickly, stop it from turning into a large event. As Camille pointed out, we're using just some good tactics that a lot of good intel, a lot of the crisis management team, a lot of our clergy, a lot of our nonprofits. But yes, all of these parades are unique, and there's a different level of resources. And other parades call for more resources, believe it or not, than this parade does.
And on schools, I wanted to read you 2 sentences from a public school teacher in Gowanus who posted on Nextdoor. Many of my students are currently in shelters, which means they do not have the school supplies are in reach for them. And she goes on to ask for things like sweaters and pencils and sensory tools. I mean, really basic things. And we know the shelter system has exploded because of the migrant crisis, and the city has pledged to educate all of those kids. So all of that being considered, is the city, in your view, doing enough to support teachers with these kids that are just coming to school, without exaggerating, with nothing? And are the teachers then able to focus on the kids that do show up with everything, but they're so busy with the kids that have these very real needs? Is the city doing enough?
Yeah, I always say, everyone knows that Tracy was a former teacher and principal, that if teachers only had to teach children 1 and 1 equals 2, it would be a great day. But the reality is, by the time these babies get in the classroom, their needs are so great. Some of them are dealing with just the stress of getting to school, not having some of the basic supplies that many of us took for granted, of just having that nice backpack with a ruler and stuff to write with. The reality is everyone needs to chip in. Hats off to that individual who posted of what they're doing, and hats off to those principals. We have a lot of principals and teachers who have volunteered and stepped up to the moment. Every New Yorker can do something. We have organized, participated with backpack giveaways throughout the entire year. That goes a long way when you give a child a backpack and have some of the basic supplies that the family members won't have to go in and purchase, particularly in the shelter. And so this is a real call for all New Yorkers that, all of us can buy, when we go in to buy for our children to start schools, pick up 3 or 4 different items and drop them off to the shelter. Buy that windbreaker, buy that pair of sneakers. We have spent $5.6 billion on this crisis. And we are all going to have to step up and help. And whoever that individual is that posted that, I really thank them, and others should follow her lead, because that's what it's going to take.
Mayor, I want to say last Thursday we had the Episcopal Bishop, Bishop Matt Hyde, and we had the Interfaith Council. We have Ruth Messenger in District 3. There's so many people who have been stepping out. They gave out 5,000 backpacks last Thursday to kids, and there's just been a lot of, again, faith-based organizations, community-based organizations who have been stepping up and doing that, parent association councils at the kids' schools. So I think your point is exactly spot on.
And I just want to go back, if I can, and just address 2 things, just to put some things in perspective. There's been a lot of questions, certainly about the parade and the police response. But just put into perspective, we have 35,000 police officers when fully staffed, hundreds of thousands of people at one parade, tens of thousands of protesters across the city, in addition to regular police work every single day and trying to keep 8.9 million New Yorkers safe. That's huge in terms of the work that's done every day. And as Camille pointed out, we do it in partnership with the community. So I think that's really important to keep into perspective. And the second thing in terms of perspective is around early childhood education. We just had the Olympics, and you get points for degrees of difficulty with diving and gymnastics, which Tia Maria, we went from, it's easier to get 14,000 people in seats than 52,000. And, if you have if you say universal is a specific number, you miss the point. It's if people need it, do they have it? And that's what we're aspiring to do.
Good point. Thanks, Liz. Hi, Mr. Mayor.
How are you?
Good. My colleagues have a follow-up to this investigation they've been doing on 700 women who filed lawsuits under the Adult Survivors Act about sexual assault and rape that they experienced at Rikers. And what they've shown in the story today is that at least 5 of the guards are still employed by the Department of Corrections, and 3 are actually still working at the women's jail. I wanted to see how you respond to that and what actions you think the city should take. Should these people still be working at Rikers, for example, or should they even still be employed? Should they be put on some kind of leave until the law department completes its review? And will the city initiate a separate investigation apart from what the law department is doing?
I think that, right, in the law department and the Department of Correction, the Commissioner of the Department of Correction will have the determination on how to move forward. I just saw that story. It is there. We have to allow investigations to take their course. That's important, but you don't want to keep people in harm's way. And the law department and DOC will make that decision.
Oh, hi.
How are you?
How are you doing?
Good.
I have a question. Elizabeth Street Garden is still an issue, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
And the eviction date is September 10th. So wondering when you are planning to go there to see for yourself what this garden or park actually looks like. That's the first question. The second question is, I was there yesterday and I was talking to the seniors that live in Section 8 housing next to the garden, and they are devastated because it seems like they're going to lose their courtyard. They've been living there for 42 years. They're all and they feel like the city has not communicated with them at all and, listened to their concerns.
We had a great meeting with those who are advocating for the garden to remain there and not the 100% senior housing. It was great to have my good friend Norman Siegel, who was representing them. And so it was a good, healthy conversation. I'm going to stop by and see the garden, as I committed to and told them I would do. And the Deputy Mayor Maria Torres Springer is going to do the follow-up conversations, and then we'll be able to announce based on what happened with that. We know there's a lot of passion. There's a lot of passion on both sides of this issue, just as there's passion with Jacoby Hospital building. There's passion in Susan District for the shelter. There's passion wherever we build housing, there's passion. But I cannot make it any clearer to New Yorkers. I have two primary goals in the city. One, the city must be safe. Must be safe. Two, I have to make sure people are housed. That's it. Everything else is a luxury. And if we could find ways to find win-wins as we accomplish these goals, I'm more than willing to do so. I sit down with people all the time and say, show me how do we get to a win-win, that I could keep us safe and I could house New Yorkers. And I don't believe the false premise that housing and green space cannot coexist and open space cannot coexist. I don't believe that. It can coexist. And that's our goal, to do so. But I got 60-something thousand people living in the shelter. 150,000 migrants and asylum seekers are going to be looking for shelter. And I get calls every day, all day, of seniors who are in tears because they don't believe they will have a roof over their heads. I got to put New Yorkers in housing. And by doing so, I'm often the bad guy for doing so. But I got to do it. I got to get it done.
Seems like, sorry, just to follow up, it seems like there is another.
Hold on, let her finish. Go ahead, because she's all the way in the back.
No,
and,
it just seems like there's another property on 2 Howard Street.
I'm going to need that also. I'm going to need that property and more.
20 stories high.
Yeah, I'm going to need that. This is what many people are not fully embracing. When we talk about housing, people often say, well, why don't you move it down the block? And I keep trying to tell people, I need that property down the block too. I need the property down the block. I have the city agencies doing analysis of every piece of real estate we have that we can build on top of. We're looking at parking lots that cities agencies have that we can build on. So it's not like, okay, if you don't take this spot, we're going to give you that spot down the block. I need that spot too. And I often say, thanks for letting me know about it, because I may have missed it because I need it. We have a 1.4% vacancy rate, folks. Like, why is this not resonating with people? 1.4% vacancy. I got to put New Yorkers in housing. I don't think anyone in this room is homeless. So, how are you?
Tompkins Square, good. How are you?
Good.
Tompkins Square Park question has nothing to do with drug dealing or shootings or deaths. Parks Farm is in the midst of a big renovation at the North End Playground. Stopped by the other day, saw it painted. That was always known as a skateboarders playground. Now there's a running track painted on there. A lot of the skateboarders, and this isn't just a local issue, it's like Nike has branded some of the skateboarders, sneakers and everything, so it's a world famous skateboarder park. And they're worried that it will not be a skateboarders park, and there's also baseball and diamonds in there that they played. They're worried that they're not gonna get it. It's now being billed as a multi-purpose asphalt park. Does that mean some of the skateboard people are gonna get moved out? Are they still gonna have access? And are the baseball diamonds gonna be painted in there? Why are they putting in a running track as part of the renovation?
Mira, are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll follow up specifically with Tompkins Square Park, but I do want to note, as we said in our State of the City, we're looking to become the East Coast skateboard capital. So we have 5 parks slated to become skate parks, 1 in every borough, and we're looking to do them on an accelerated timeline. You've identified something that's really important to us. Skateboarding is attractive to a diverse group. It's also something that's very attractive to many of our youth, and it's a way for them to get out and enjoy our public space because they don't all want to play pickleball. They want to skateboard. And so we want to ensure that we have parks that speak to the people that live in New York City and are out there enjoying it. So I'm happy to follow up exactly on the plans there, but I urge you to also just to take a look just across the street at underneath the Brooklyn Bridge arches where we opened up a little postage stamp of an old skateboard park, and the skaters are flocking there, and more to come there.
So is this Tompkins Square going to be a skateboard park?
I'm going to get an answer for you. I don't have that information immediately handy, but I'm happy to follow up with you.
Yeah, we opened one in Brooklyn. Was really proud to open in Brower Park, I think it was, right?
Right behind.
Yep. So skateboarders should have a place to skate.